All right, so if you're a seasoned Java developer and you've really got Spring Boot down, you've probably hit this point. You need to build a modern, slick front end. You keep hearing about Angular, and the big question pops into your head. Does all my backend experience give me any kind of a leg up? Well, let's dive in and find out. So this is the question, right? You're super comfortable with Java, dependency injection, all that good stuff. But now you're looking at TypeScript and this whole front-end world that feels, well, a little alien. The short answer is yes, your Spring Boot knowledge is a huge help. The longer answer? It's a little more nuanced, and that's exactly what we're going to unpack here. Okay, so let's start with what's going to feel familiar. There are some really core ideas that Spring and Angular both share. Think of these as the first solid planks on the bridge we're building, giving you a really stable place to start your journey into the front end. And the biggest, most important piece of common ground is dependency injection. Honestly, this should feel like coming home. The principle is 100% the same. Instead of your component having to create its own services, the framework just steps in and provides or injects them for you. It's all about making your code clean, easy to test, and maintainable, and that's true whether you're writing Java or TypeScript. And check this out. When you see it in practice, it's almost identical. In the Spring world, you're used to typing @AutoWired everywhere. In Angular, you just add your dependency to the class constructor. That's it. The framework sees it and knows exactly what to inject. The concept is a perfect match, just a tiny little difference in syntax. This leads us right into another huge parallel. You know how in Spring you use annotations like @REST-controller to tell the framework, hey, this class is an API controller. Well, in Angular, you use decorators like @component to say, hey, this class is a piece of the UI. The names are different, annotations versus decorators, but the job is exactly the same. You're adding little bits of metadata to tell the framework what your code is supposed to do. And beyond the big framework ideas, the language itself is going to feel incredibly comfortable. See, Angular is built on TypeScript, and for Java dev, TypeScript is a dream. It's got classes, inheritance, interfaces, access modifiers like public and private, and even generics. Seriously, all of your object-oriented programming knowledge transfers directly. It's a massive head start. Okay, so we've walked across the familiar part of our bridge. But now we're getting to a section where the design is a little different. This is where you can't just do a one-for-one mapping of your Java knowledge. To really get good at Angular, you've got to make a few key mental shifts. I love this piece of advice from another developer because it just hits the nail on the head. Even though a lot of concepts are similar, if you try to write Angular code exactly like you write your Java code, you're just going to get frustrated. You have to be open to a new way of thinking, especially when it comes to how the language handles types. And this right here is probably the biggest mental shift of all. Java uses what's called nominal typing. An object is a car because you explicitly declared class car. Its name defines it. TypeScript, on the other hand, uses structural typing. It doesn't really care about the name, it cares about the shape. If an interface expects something with a name property and an age property, any object that has those two properties will work. It doesn't have to officially implement the interface. If it looks like a duck and quacks like a duck, TypeScript says it's a duck. Now, here's another thing that might bake your noodle a bit. In Java, you have reflection, right? You can inspect an object at runtime and ask it, hey, what class are you? With TypeScript, all that amazing type information, it gets completely erased when it's compiled. The final code is just plain JavaScript. Those types are a safety net for you, the developer, during development, not for the browser's engine when the code is running. So, enough with the theory. Let's get down to brass tacks. How do we actually get a Spring Boot backend and an Angular front end to talk to each other? What does that whole process actually look like in the real world? It really boils down to these 5 steps. First, you build your Spring REST API, your bread and butter. Then you use the fantastic Angular CLI to generate your front-end project. From there, your Angular app just makes simple HTTP calls to fetch data from your API. Now, during development, you'll set up a quick little proxy. It's way easier than it sounds. And then for deployment, you bundle your whole Angular app into a handful of static files and just drop them right into your Spring Boot project. It's a really clean, single unit. This little chart here shows exactly why that proxy step is so critical. During development, you've actually got 2 servers running. Your Spring API is chugging away on one port, say 8080, and the live reloading Angular dev server is on another, usually 4200.
Browsers have security rules that prevent a page from 4200 from just calling an API on 8080. So the proxy just tells the Angular server, hey, if you see a request for /API, just quietly forward it over to localhost 8080. It's a neat little trick to make development smooth.
So we know how to put them together, but we also got to ask why. And maybe even more important, when. Picking a tech stack is a strategic move. And this Spring Boot and Angular combination, it's incredibly powerful, but it's not the right tool for every single job out there.
This stack really shines in big, serious enterprise settings. We're talking large-scale internal platforms, applications with super complex business logic, or projects that you know are going to be developed and maintained for years by multiple teams. The structure, the strong typing, the robust security features, it makes it a perfect choice for industries like banking or healthcare, where reliability is everything.
But all that power comes with a bit of ceremony. If you're just trying to throw together a quick prototype for a hackathon, this stack is probably overkill. You might get to your goal faster with something a little lighter, like React with Firebase. And for a simple marketing site or a landing page, definitely not the right tool. It's all about choosing the right architecture for the problem you're trying to solve. And it's also really important to know that Angular is not standing still. The framework is constantly evolving. In fact, the latest versions are making a big push toward what's called a signal-first model for managing your application's state. It's a pretty big shift that aims to make reactive code simpler and even more performant. And that really brings us to the key takeaway. The bridge you're building is to a destination that's constantly moving and improving. Your Spring Boot skills give you an absolutely incredible foundation in structure, APIs, and writing solid code. But the front-end world never stops innovating. So as Angular keeps evolving with new ideas like signals, the most important skill is to keep those fresh eyes we talked about earlier and be ready to learn and adapt to whatever comes next.